a big thing that I also think about is accidents. And as I said, my mother did not believe in randomness. What is the nature of accidents, and how are we going to assign what the responsibility and the causes are outside of a court of law? I was able to see that in a first-hand way when I went to a beautiful Dong village in Guizhou, in the poorest province of China. And I saw this beautiful place. I knew I wanted to come back, and I had a chance to do that when National Geographic asked me if I wanted to write anything about China. And I said yes, about this village of singing people, singing minority. And they agreed. And between the time I saw this place and the next time I went, there was a terrible accident. An old man, fell asleep, and his quilt dropped in a pan of fire that kept him warm. 60 homes were destroyed, and 40 were damaged. Responsibility was assigned to the family. The man's sons were banished to live 3 kilometers away in a cowshed. And of course, as Westerners, we say, well, it was an accident. That's not fair. It's the son, not the father. And when I go into a story, I have to let go of those kinds of beliefs. It takes a while, but I have to let go of them and just go there and be there. And so I was there on 3 occasions, different seasons. And I began to sense something different about the history and what had happened before and the nature of life in a very poor village, and what you find is your joys and your rituals, your traditions, your links with other families. And I saw how this had a kind of justice in its responsibility. I was able to find out also about the ceremony that they were using, a ceremony they hadn't used in about 29 years, and it was to send some men, a feng shui master sent men down to the underworld on ghost horses. Now you as Westerners and I as Westerners would say, well, that's superstition. But after being there for a while and seeing the amazing things that happen, you begin to wonder whose beliefs are those that are in operation in the world, determining how things happen. So I remained with them, and the more I wrote that story, the more I got into those beliefs, and I think that's important for me to take on the beliefs, because that is where the story is real, and that is where I'm going to find the answers to how I feel about certain questions that I have in life. Years go by, of course, in the writing. It doesn't happen instantly, I'm trying to convey it to you here at TED. The book comes and it goes. When it arrives, it is no longer my book. It is in the hands of readers, and they interpret it differently. But I go back to this question of how do I create something out of nothing, and how do I create my own life? And I think it is by questioning, in saying to myself that there are no absolute truths. I believe in specifics, the specifics of the story, and the past, the specifics of that past and what is happening in the story at that point. I also believe that in thinking about things, my thinking about luck and fate and coincidences and accidents, God's will and the synchrony of mysterious forces, I will come to some notion of what that is, how we create. I have to think of my role, where I am in the universe, and did somebody intend for me to be that way, or was it just something I came up with? And I also can find that by imagining fully and becoming what is imagined and yet is in that real world, the fictional world. And that is how I find particles of truth, not the absolute truth or the whole truth. And they have to be in all possibilities, including those I never considered before. So there are never complete answers. Or rather, if there is an answer, it is to remind myself that there is uncertainty in everything, and that is good, because then I will discover something new. And if there is a partial answer, a more complete answer for me, it is to simply imagine. And to imagine is to put myself in that story until there is a transparency between me and the story that I am creating. And that's how I've discovered that if I feel what is in the story, in one story, then I come the closest, I think, to knowing what compassion is, to feeling that compassion. Because for everything in that question of how things happen. It has to do with the feeling. I have to become the story in order to understand a lot of that. We've come to the end of the talk, and I will reveal what is in the bag. And it is the muse, and it is the things that transform in our lives that are wonderful and stay with us. There she is. Thank you very much.